In this video, we're going to add the Blend Shapes Manager and Blend Shapes Preset Manager to the devil here. This is the same process you would go through with any character or other object that uses blend shapes in the Infinity PBR library, if it does not have it already. Now, most characters will have this already, but if you want to set up from scratch or manage it, this is the process to do exactly that. We're going to start by adding the component, the Preset Manager. That requires the Blend Shapes Manager, so when you add the Blend Shapes Preset Manager, the Blend Shapes Manager will be added as well. And let's go ahead and expand both of these. The Blend Shapes Manager will now automatically populate the blend shapes here. If you ever need to reset them, go to Setup and Options and click this red Reload Shape Data. That will set all values to 0 and reload any shape data in case anything went wonky in the process of updating characters or anything like that. Generally speaking, you wouldn't need to do that. The global modifier manages the impact of each shape. There's actually a Unity bug which has been around for quite a while, which doubles the values we've set in the mesh itself. So whenever we open up one of these, and you can change this length here, the values are doubled when we're at global modifier 1, and you can see that impact here where this object gets kind of inverted on itself. So if you wanted to keep the values to be where our artists set them, set this global modifier to 0.5, and then when you bring this down and up, you get only the limited values that we have set in the mesh itself. However, you can get some interesting and unique and new looks by having global modifier set to 1. Some characters have a lot of shapes like the devil here, and some have fewer. When you expand each one of these, you have the option to set the shape with the slider, set it to a random value between the minimum and the maximum. You can also set the maximum and the minimum values, and then when you randomize, you always get a value between those two that you've set. You can also choose to export the minimum and maximum ranges to a text file, which you can save for later use. This isn't a very common use case, but it is helpful if you want to save your results and then play with it some more and always go back to a different version. You can then drag and drop a range file here and import it back into the Blend Shapes Manager, and that will set these minimum and maximum values to whatever you had set in that file. Oftentimes you'll want to limit the number of shapes or control more specifically which shapes are activated, including randomizing them or setting them to explicit values, resetting them to 0, and even transitioning to them over time. So instead of just immediately setting the shapes kind of morph over a period of time to those values. And we use the Blend Shapes Manager for this. I'm going to turn off the help boxes just to clean it up for the demo here. And we're going to set the transition seconds to be 0.5 so that when we do transition from one to another over time, it's only 0.5 seconds. So you'll see the transition pretty quickly. We don't have any preset groups here, so we have to click this Reload Blend Shape List. That's going to pull the list from the Blend Shapes Manager. If you were to ever change anything, such as your minimum and maximums here, you'll want to come in here and just click that Reload Blend Shape List button again to make sure that the latest updates to the minimum and maximums are captured. Then we're going to add a new preset group, and we're going to call this Reset. It's always good to have a nice reset option that just resets everything back to 0. So I'm going to expand this here. And then we're going to click the Add All button. You can add each individual item if you'd like. And again, this has a lot of shapes. Most characters don't have this many shapes. But we're just going to click Add All. And then on each one of these, you have the option to set whether it's an explicit value or a random value. In this case, we're going to set the explicit value and keep the default 0 for all of these. And that way, whenever we activate this, it's going to set everything back to 0. Then I'm going to click Copy here and then close this one out and rename this copy to be Random. Scrolling down to the bottom, instead of selecting random for each one, we're going to set all random here. And now the values will be set randomly. So now when we click the Activate button, the blend shapes will activate to a random value. Note that the transition doesn't happen at edit time. It can happen via code at runtime if you choose. We can also click the reset to reset back to 0. Now let's say you did have a couple shapes set and you want to save these to something that you can call at runtime. Whenever you add a new preset group, the values that are currently set in the Blend Shapes Manager will be captured. So you can choose to add just the ones you want, or you can add all, and those values will be captured as you like it, so you can always activate it later with a single click of the button. That's a great way to save unique looks that you want to use without relying on randomization at runtime. The Blend Shapes Preset Manager is a pretty short script here, but it just has a couple public methods which you can use. Activate preset with the name, activate preset with an integer for the index, or start transition to preset again with the preset index or the preset name. And that'll start the animation between one value to another over the time period that you've set in the inspector. For additional documentation, go over to infinitypbr.com, click on Scripting Docs, and you'll find all of our documentation here. Scroll down to the Equipment Systems to find information about the Blend Shapes Manager and Blend Shapes Preset Manager. If you have any questions, don't forget to come to the Discord. You can get to the Discord by clicking this Join the Discord button again at infinitypbr.com. Thank you very much and have a great day.